Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, and that is Caleb. And today we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, the Huskers are adding some more impact players to the squad. So we're going over all the news of this offseason heading into spring and the spring ball, obviously, with a few months to go before the spring games. We have a lot to talk about today, the big additions, and a lot of news to catch up on as well. And it's going to be fun. So Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Just one more week of football with the Super Bowl coming up.
Man.
So that'll be big sadness. But man, the playoffs have been a ton of fun. So get some juice flowing besides the Husker news. It's an exciting time. Huskers have a lot of optimism and hope going in for the future. And
Much needed.
With all the additions, definitely needed. And, you're getting excited again for Nebraska football. And can't wait for August is now where it's just a countdown.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So again, we have a lot to go over today. So basically, we're going to start off with a little bit of the news that we're catching up on, and then we're going to get into some of the really interesting new additions to the team. And then, of course, talk about this quarterback battle that Frost kind of opened up today in his press conference. So we have a lot to go over and talk about. So first off, some of the basic stuff. There was a little bit of news on Eric Schneider getting an extension to 2023 and a slight pay boost as well. So locking down, an important piece of his coaching staff.
$850K slight boost, huh?
$850K, just a little slight boost. Nice day for a nice month for Eric Schneider. And then as well as today, Frost announced that a few players won't be playing or practicing this spring, including Turner Corcoran, Teddy Prohaska. They won't be available throughout the whole spring. And then Vokalek had surgery and will miss at least some, if not most, of the spring practice. And then he gave an update on Gabe Ervin and said he will be close by the spring. We'll see. And then Damian Jackson's going to miss some time in spring as well. And then the punter Daniel Cerny is going into medical hardship, so he'll be not available this season, which basically means that Brian Buschini, who just came into Nebraska this year, transferred over, should be the starter from here on out. So some pretty big updates there.
Yeah. Also, we finally locked down that special teams coach as well, Bill Bush. Exciting again. We've needed a lot of help on the special teams, as everybody is well aware on this channel.
No.
Yes.
No.
Mickey Joseph was also talking about that too, how all of his players will be playing special teams, wide receivers. So that's exciting. They want the stars to be out there. Frost also mentioned it more. He was excited for the upgrades in our special teams.
Oh, for sure. Like with Mickey Joseph bringing in Trey Palmer, who's returning for LSU. Like he's coming in. We expect to see a lot of potential lead. Him back there, a few other guys. Obviously, we didn't have much going on when it came in, especially to punt returns this year. We were waving that hand all year long. So hopefully we can at least get some yardage back in the special teams game for sure this year. I mean, my word. I mean, how do you feel about the Bill Bush hire?
It's fine. He served for Nebraska from 2004 to 2007. He coached the safeties. He just ranked top 25 when he was here at Nebraska in most of the special teams categories. And on punt returns, we're 17th in the nation. So he has some experience here. Top 25 would be, just otherworldly. Haven't
massive.
Seen numbers so that'd be exciting. Obviously that was a while ago, but I think it's a solid hire. It's a pretty safe hire, and
for sure. And Frost said that he'd also be assisting with another group to be decided, like on defense as well. So he'll be pretty involved overall in the coaching, hands-on, special teams, and positional groups as well. I think it makes sense when it comes to this relationship with Nebraska and Frost and the staff, and we'll see. Only up from here. That's always what you hope, at least. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of the biggest difference is having a lot of talent and depth creates overall for more fundamental special teams. The guys who can spend a lot of time practicing and focusing on special teams. A lot of their playing time is special teams, therefore they value that time and are putting a lot of work into becoming great in that area. We'll see, but it is an interesting hire either way, and I think it's overall pretty positive sign. Yeah, and then also with Bill Bush as well, we hired a running backs coach finally when it came to Brian Applewhite, hired from TCU. And he has a lot of experience.
Yeah, all with the running backs. It seems wherever he's been, he's really been the running backs coach everywhere. So obviously, and also his last two stops, he'd also been the recruiting coordinator as well. Both at Colorado State and Louisiana Monroe. TCU, the last stop he was at was ranked 20th in the nation and 30th in the nation. And he's had multiple 1,000-yard rushers, something Nebraska hasn't had in the last 5 seasons. So hopefully he can bring that back. And he's done a solid job on the recruiting trail thus far. And Josh and I probably saw the most exciting guys huddle film was probably a Brian Applewhite recruit.
Yeah, AJ Allen. And we'll talk about him a little bit more in the video as well. Definitely exciting. I think it's a pretty solid hire overall with a guy who has that much experience bringing into the staff. And again, at this point, Frost needs opinions. He needs guys who get inserted into a system and quickly establish themselves. He needs them to be ready to coach and win games this season to keep his job. So it's really interesting. I think it's a pretty solid hire and makes a lot of sense for Frost. And then bringing, some of that recruiting with him as well makes a lot of sense. So with that said, we can talk about some of the JUCO guys we got first and then talk about the freshmen that committed just this week. So first off, Huskers landed a JUCO commit, Anthony Grant from New Mexico Military Institute. Formerly, he was at FSU, and he appeared in all 12 games as a freshman. Looked really, really good, actually, as a primary kick returner, and played well. But then things didn't go his way. Ended up transferring in 2020, and actually tore it up in JUCO at the New Mexico Military Institute, though.
Yeah, and so he's a 4-star transfer on Rivals, 3-star on 24/7, to 17th overall, but number 1 ranked running back.
He had 241 carries, 1,730 yards, and 18 touchdowns in his season last year.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
he was tearing it up, to say the least. And like you said, a 4-star on JUCO, or on Rivals as a JUCO transfer, which is different than like the normal freshman recruiting ranking.
Yeah.
So, you might see the headlines like 4-star JUCO transfer. It's not the same as like a 4-star freshman commitment. He did have some offers from some other schools, but nothing like major, like New Mexico State, Arkansas State, Florida Atlantic, Jackson State. So Nebraska was the best offer for him there, and that's why he ended up here.
Some of those JUCO guys that, that they kind of survive. It's kind of, you go to a big school and then you go back down into this, much different experience than a Florida State, to play well, to continue through, and to keep working. That says a lot about a player, his character and wanting to continue to play football. So I think a lot of times the guys that coming from JUCO can really have the right attitude coming in. So it's exciting, and hopefully we see a nice redemption arc here for him, and he can be an impact player for Nebraska. Yeah,
we'll talk about the running back room a little bit more near the end of the video, but I think there is going to be some opportunity for sure. So the other guy was Javier Morton, coming in as a safety transfer, who's formerly an Alabama commit, actually, and had over 50 offers coming out of high school. He ended up transferring and going to Garden City Community College, and coming out as a transfer, he had some offers from like UMass and Toledo again, but like nothing like major. He is really athletic, and obviously coming out of high school had a lot of interest. So there is some potential here, and we need help at safety, obviously. Frost and the staff is just looking for bodies.
Yeah, and he played 9 of 11 games in JUCO, had 20 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Did do some safety blitzes. Again, that's something that both Schneider and Frost really like in the defensive scheme. So if that's something he's very good at, he could definitely see the field.
For sure. He hit hard, and obviously they loved how Damian Williams played and coming up towards the line of scrimmage and making plays and mixing it around with single high safeties and cover 2 and going back and forth. So I think there's a world where he could potentially see the field, but again, we brought in a lot of guys there in secondary. That was obviously a huge focus in this recruiting class. And so we're going to have to wait and see how it sifts out heading towards the spring game here and the first depth charts. So 2 big commitments today on the second signing day. And these are guys the first one, like we mentioned, is AJ Allen. And this all stems again from Brian Applewhite coming from TCU, and he brought AJ Allen with him. He flipped the 3-star who was committed to TCU to Nebraska. And like you said, you were teasing a little bit, he looked really good.
Yeah, his huddle highlights are worth the watch, but my goodness, are they exciting. He has a lot of different moves in his bag. He has a really long touchdown reception as well, which is exciting.
Hesitation, kick returns as well.
Yeah, so he had a 99-yard touchdown run. He had offers from Mississippi State and TCU, and then obviously us.
He's the 40th running back in the 501st overall recruit, and he visited early in January, and so there was kind of that interest, and he ranked it he was like 10 out of 10. Nebraska was sick. And so there was definitely a lot of potential interest there. And then when, we hired Applewhite, it was looking very, very likely that he was going to come our way. And that definitely is what happened. Like you said, with the offers from Mississippi State and TCU, ideally you want to see a few more bigger schools interested. Those are like the only 2 like Power 5 schools that had interest, but outside of ourselves, the highlights were some of the best we've ever seen when it came to big plays and breakaway speed and agility and quick cuts. So,
I mean, hey, Mike Leach is a big offensive guy, though, at Mississippi State. And, you know, he likes to pass a lot. So that probably says something, again, about his hands.
yeah.
So, again, like, I think he could be exciting.
I agree. Like we said, I think it's very possible that he comes in and sees a little bit of time this year, especially with the red shirt rules. I mean, seeing him in 4 games making plays, who knows? But, man, he was fun to watch. How you feeling about Janaran Bonner, wide receiver, flip from Georgia Tech? Oh, baby. That was the big get today.
Yeah, Janaran Bonner, he's exciting, man. Again, Mickey Joseph just doing more work for us. His track record is very exciting. Hey, with his former player now in the Super Bowl with Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Again, anybody that he gets, I don't care what star they are at this point, you're pretty excited. 49th ranked overall wide receiver, 330 overall. Offers from, that Auburn, Baylor, FSU, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Tennessee. He's 6'1", 193, and he is built.
Oh, my.
He looks very
DK Metcalf,
mature
never
body
heard
for-
of him. Oh, my word. Janaran Bonner, though, baby, give me some of that.
He's, again, his highlights show, a lot of just out muscling people. Don't know how fast he is. There was a crazy amount of breakaway speed. His quarterback actually didn't look half bad with the throws too. But man, he had some great catches, fade routes. He looked really good, and it was pretty obvious that he was the Division I player on the field.
Yeah, that's the thing. And, like, there was times where you're like, man, this looks so easy for him. Like, there is no competition here. What is happening? And there was a lot of throws where he had to come back to the ball and make some really impressive contested catches. And so I think he jumped off the page quite literally in a lot of ways where you're like, he can go up and get it. So I think he's a nice compliment being underneath like a guy like Omar Manning, who I think has a very similar skill set. And then when you pair him with Mickey Joseph, the long-term development for a guy like him could be really exciting. Really happy with that. And with the receiver room, how it is right now, you never know. I mean, if a guy's just that good, he easily could see the field a lot this year. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the receiving room? I mean, overall, all we really know right now for sure is that Omar Manning and Javier Betts are going to have a lot of snaps. They're going to have a lot of snaps next year. Outside of that, you got like Alante Brown, Will Nixon, and you got all of the guys coming in now too.
Trey Palmer will probably start. Like I said, Bonner has a
Speedy,
good chance.
man.
Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, the guy who he transferred from New Mexico State, who had a solid season.
Good film.
He's looking to start too, and he looked really good. Mickey Joseph's going to have a lot of options, and just with him coaching, excited to see how Omar and Betts are going to. And Alante Brown, he showed a lot of flash.
Oh, I mean, he's one thing he for sure has is speed. I mean, that's undoubtable. And there's even the young guys too, like Janaran Bonner, Decoldus Crawford, and Victor Jones, all guys who seemed like they had a chance and it could definitely provide something to the receiving core. So a total of 13 scholarship guys right now at the position. So Mickey Joseph, like you said, has the weapons to develop. And so we'll see what Mickey can do here, man. What do you think the ceiling is for this group? How good can they be?
With wide receivers, they can all be individually, very talented. I guess the question is then, who's throwing the ball and how much time they get to throw the ball this season are really the questions.
For sure. And we'll be talking about that in a second.
Yeah. So with our offensive line, obviously you need time. But again, I mean, if Joe Burrow's taught us one thing, I mean, the dude got sacked 9 times in the game and still won and threw for, almost 400 yards.
I mean, he was dancing back there and he had to make some escape plays, but it was insane. But yeah, 100%. If you're a good quarterback, you can make it happen for sure and get the ball into some playmakers' hands. And that always helps. So
and being wide open that really helps it make it easy to scramble and just throw it.
Yeah,
so
man.
Hopefully that's the case. I mean, I think Omar has a really high ceiling. I think
really high
ceiling. I think Omar has maybe the highest ceiling of all the wide receivers.
If you coach him up a little bit more, get down his route running a little bit better, because like last year it was basically like fly route, maybe a deep post.
I liked his slants, man.
He had a few nice slants. You're right.
I think his breaks look good, and if he can just get a little bit consistent or whatever Scott Frost needs or whatnot.
You gotta be consistent. You gotta be consistent in practice.
Or else Wyatt Lewer is out there
Wyatt
taking your snaps. Wyatt's coming for your snaps. He does the little things right.
Yeah. I mean, out of the 3 freshmen, who do you think is the most likely to see the field? Who do you like the most?
I think it'll be tough to see the field for the freshmen. Castaneda and Trey Palmer are more likely.
For sure. I mean, again, like right now, what obviously Frost was prioritizing.
Again, they'll all get time. I think Bonner will get probably the most time.
Yeah. I mean, Frost was obviously prioritizing experience with these transfers and like bringing in guys who you can trust right away to be on the field and not turn the ball over is really what he's looking for at this point. So I think that's gonna be pretty interesting. So when it comes to the running backs, just an update there of that running back room right now. It's a loaded room and with a lot of names and bodies. Obviously, the guys that we all expect: Ramir Johnson, Marquise Stepp, Jack Yant, and Gabe Ervin from last year are returning. Then you've got Anthony Grant transferring in, and then you've got the freshmen AJ Allen and Emmett Johnson, who both had very impressive films. So that's a talented room with a lot of potential options. Which guy do you feel like is most interesting?
I mean, I think Yant is definitely the most interesting. I mean, he had essentially a breakout game last season against Northwestern. And had some big runs. There's a picture of him floating around the training camp where he just looked huge and yoked. Again, like, he's a big body and he looks just built for the Big Ten. He looks like he can just deliver the pain to those linebackers. You know, like, again, just wearing them down. He has speed too.
Do you see him as an every down guy, or do you see him as like a first downs Jack Yant, second down, third downs Ramir Johnson, second and longs Ramir Johnson, third downs Ramir? Like,
I think he can be the all-purpose back if whatever off the field and, you know, whatever else he needs. I think everybody's rooting for Jack Yant because he has a giant amount of upside.
And then, like we said, Gabe showed those flashes of athleticism. The question is, can he bounce back from his really, really tough injury? And then you're bringing in, you know, the transfer Anthony Grant, and then both freshmen I like a lot. So it's hard to say. I'm excited for the spring game to see all these guys in action. Potentially some interesting names pop out of the weeds here for playing time. I think Stepp's the guy who seems like the odd man out here. I don't really see how he really fits into the system unless Yant goes down with an injury, and then you have like Stepp coming in on like a first down situation. But even last year, Ramir Johnson was basically in on first, second, and third down for a lot of last year.
Yeah,
until he got hurt.
And he filled in great. And I think, you know, just with his consistency and some good runs he had, again, it's just like he doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he is just a consistent, solid option.
Yeah.
And he did a fine enough job. Again, when our running back room was sparse, he did step up and fill in.
This is where we got to talk here. Frost really opened up a can of worms today. In his press conference, he basically said, let the best man win when it comes to the quarterback position. When asked about the Casey Thompson being brought in to be the Nebraska quarterback narrative, he said, that's not my narrative. The best man will win. It's a competition. It's no guarantee that Casey Thompson is the starting quarterback for Nebraska. And that means we have basically a four-way potential battle right now with Casey Thompson from Texas, Chubba Purdy from FSU, who committed since our last video, and then Logan Smothers and Heinrich Harburg all competing for this potential spot in the depth chart as a whole. And Frost said normally Nebraska brings in 5 guys, so it was natural for them to want to add 2 guys on scholarship at the quarterback position. And we got ourselves a competition. Caleb, how you feeling?
It's interesting. You know, do you think he's just saying that so that they can push each other? I mean, does he really think that Casey Thompson isn't going to be the starter? But then there is the talk of like, well, Whipple did recruit Chubba
before he joined Nebraska.
Yeah, and he really liked Chubba. Mm-hmm. So maybe there is something there with him wanting Chubba. Obviously, Casey has, you know, a lot of good history.
Starting and he was slinging the ball last year. Touchdowns, yardage. The Big 12, he was tearing it up.
Yeah, he didn't. Obviously, Texas have the result they wanted with only 5 wins. But, you know, Texas has a lot more problems than just the quarterback, you could say. And he did also play extremely well in an Alamo Bowl when Ellinger got hurt, and he had 4 touchdowns. So, you know, there's definitely good results from Casey Thompson.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of Texas fans were saying, hey, he was pretty hurt by the end of that season.
That's the biggest thing. That narrative's really been developing after we made the last video about Casey Thompson. They said it happened in the Oklahoma game early in the year, and then Casey was never fully the same. After that, always seemed a little limited with a really bad hand injury. That is something to look for sure.
Yeah, it's all interesting, and I guess it'll be exciting. Obviously, quarterback battles for the Luke and Adrian battle, a couple of years ago, and that was rather short-lived. So
Yeah, and not
exciting.
Productive. I mean, that's the problem. I'm a little bit worried. I think that's why I think we need to stay on that topic a little bit more. I mean, obviously Frost seems to be interested in Casey Thompson, and that's why the narrative even existed in the first place. He immediately shot that down, saying that's not my narrative, but whatever. But like, it seems logical. Like, it seems logical that Casey might be Frost's guy, and then is Chubba Whipple's guy?
And which system's gonna win out?
It's interesting.
The head coach usually wins out, but Scott Frost did want to bring in a new offense and have Whipple run the offense. It could be a pretty interesting conversation through the year. I mean, if we do go with Thompson and that's not what Whipple wanted,
then are they quick to pull the trigger on replacing him? Like, if things don't go well early, like, do we suddenly have a 4-way quarterback battle in the season? There's a lot of potential for this to go wrong, but there's also a lot of potential for this to go incredibly well. So I think that's why they wanted to bring in the bodies, and hopefully they can make like a steadfast decision. One of these guys rises to the top. I think both of us think it's most likely to be Casey Thompson, especially talked about it a lot in our last video, even when the rumors of Chubba committing were there. Logan Smothers might be in like the worst position possible here, because Chubba has 2 years? He has 2 years more of eligibility than Casey Thompson does. So him and Logan are battling now for that
backup spot
the backup spot. And so it's like, does Logan transfer? Those are all potential question marks as well. That could come into play here as we get closer to spring ball or closer to the summer as well. And we don't fully know what type of offense Whipple wants to establish here. Like, we saw how good of a downfield thrower Casey Thompson was, but like maybe Purdy's better at getting the ball out and running more West Coast style and getting the thing out quick and doing the simple stuff. And maybe if that's what they're looking for, then that could potentially be the case. I mean, last year, obviously in the last few years, that's generally what Frost has been looking for, is getting the ball out quick, managing an offense while also being a dual threat. Overall, the experience of Casey Thompson from his starts is going to win out versus the inexperience of Purdy, Smothers, or Harburg in a season where Frost has to win 6 or 7 games to even have a chance to maintain his job. So,
and with experience, comes a lot of confidence inside a QB battle, And so Casey's at an advantage. Although I guess, Smothers being inside of Frost's system maybe gives Smothers some sort of chance for the backup spot.
For sure.
More than Purdy. And everybody's been interested in Harburg. Obviously, he's got the frame of an NFL QB at 6'5" and a really big arm. So hopefully he keeps developing too, because I think eventually everybody'd like to see him succeed as well.
Oh, for sure. So that's basically all of the big news overall. I guess the other, we're just looking for those storylines heading into spring practice and towards the spring game specifically, with so much staff being flipped heading into this new year, and then transfer quarterbacks coming in, the loss of Adrian. Then the question is, are we going to be able to pull anybody else from the transfer portal? Because right now, if anybody else commits, because we're past the second deadline, they won't be able to join the program until May. Basically, we have an open window here of people to commit until May to join the squad. So the Frost did say they're leaving some scholarships open in case some guys are looking to transfer out after spring practice, and potentially maybe adding, at least I would assume we'd be looking for offensive line or defensive line help to bolster those positions, because at this point, any bodies are going to be helpful.
Yeah, I think the one really nice thing about Scott Frost is he himself was a transfer guy who left mid-career to go back to Nebraska. I think that really gives him some nice experience, and has walked the same shoes
as some interest a lot of these players to try to do it, try to find those guys too,
Yeah, and he has the success of he was at a different school and came to Nebraska, won a national championship. It's a pretty good sell. So I think in the free agency world that we're now living in of college football, I think that does give us a little bit of a leg up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's going to be interesting. So drop all your comments down below, your thoughts on this QB battle. Which of these guys you're most interested or excited in the quarterback room specifically, and who you think is going to make the biggest impact in the wide receiver room, the running back room offensively, or any other thoughts you might have. We'd love to hear them down below. And we appreciate you guys for watching. Drop our comments and everything else. Hit the like on this video and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload, because we upload randomly and sporadically sometimes. And sometimes it can be easy to miss in the off season. And so we appreciate you guys for watching. But as always, I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and this has been Backseat Sports, and we'll see you next time. Go Big Red.